New York. It's been a really jam-packed schedule, talking about all the significant crises the world is facing right now. Top of mind for me this morning is what's happening in Lebanon. I spoke with a number of Lebanese Canadians this morning who are very much worried for their families, their communities. I had a long conversation with the King of Jordan this morning. I spoke with Secretary General Guterres, including about this over the past days. We need to make sure that civilians are protected. The violence needs to stop. The women, the children killed in Lebanon is extraordinarily concerning. The people of Lebanon, Lebanese Canadians, are watching this and incredibly worried. We need to make sure there is de-escalation, both by Israel and Hezbollah. We need to protect civilian lives. We need to make sure we're moving towards peace and stability in the entire region. And Canada is going to continue to be there to step up and call for peace and help create, once again, that peace and stability that we need. On other issues, we've been speaking about democracy, about climate change, about reform of the UN and the multilateral institutions. We've continued to engage with a broad range of leaders and will continue to over the rest of the time here. We also, yesterday morning, convened a really important meeting of partners on Haiti to try and make sure that the work the Prime Minister is doing is fruitful. There are positive signs about what's happening in Haiti, but we need to keep the pressure on, and that means Canada will be continuing to pull in the international community to make sure that more support flows to the people of Haiti who are facing incredibly difficult times. On est à notre troisième journée ici à l'ONU à New York, en train de dealer, de répondre à des enjeux qui entourent la planète de grande priorité. Ce matin en particulier, on est très préoccupé par la situation au Liban. Je veux dire aux gens d'origine libanaise, aux Canadiens d'origine libanaise, mais aussi aux Libanais eux-mêmes, que le Canada est avec eux. On doit voir un arrêt à la violence, aux morts de civils, de femmes, d'enfants. Nous avons besoin de voir une désescalation par l'Israël et par Hezbollah. Nous allons continuer d'être là pour appuyer la communauté libanaise. J'ai parlé ce matin avec des membres de la communauté libanaise au Canada qui sont très préoccupés, mais j'ai aussi eu l'opportunité d'échanger avec le roi de la Jordanie, avec le secrétaire général Guterres et avec bien d'autres au sujet de la situation au Moyen-Orient où on a besoin de voir les civils mieux protégés partout dans la région. Il y a aussi énormément d'enjeux, d'autres enjeux sur lesquels on est en train de travailler ici, que ce soit les changements climatiques, que ce soit la démocratie, que ce soit d'aider les plus vulnérables à travers le monde. Nous allons continuer nos discussions. Le Canada a un rôle important à jouer à ce niveau-là et on continue de le jouer, particulièrement par rapport à Haïti. On a rassemblé un groupe de pays et d'intervenants qui sont là pour aider, pour investir. On voit que le premier ministre Conille est en train d'avancer de façon positive. Il y a des signes positifs qu'on voit en Haïti, mais on se doit de continuer d'amener des ressources, de l'aide, de l'équipement à la police nationale et aussi aux Kenyans avec ce qu'ils sont en train de faire, et on va continuer de le faire.
First question.
Prime Minister Michael Couture from CTV News, you're one of the people who is leading the charge in trying to talk to allies in NATO to convince them to let Ukraine use those Western-donated weapons deep inside the territory of Russia. I wanted to know what kind of progress you're making on that, and what are you hearing from those allies who are either for or against it?
Obviously, these conversations are continuing. I had a number of those conversations directly with leaders yesterday. We need the war to end. We need Ukraine to win this war. Russia's illegal invasion of a neighboring country cannot be allowed to stand. It's in direct violation of the Charter of these United Nations, and it risks destabilizing principles of territorial integrity and sovereignty everywhere around the world. That's why Canada and so many leaders are so unequivocal about ensuring that Ukraine has the tools to defend itself against this illegal invasion, including diminishing Russia's capacity to launch further attacks into Ukraine.
Just as a follow-up, how concerned are you that if Donald Trump becomes president again, that he'll follow through on his promise to end aid for Ukraine, and that could essentially mean game over for Ukraine?
We've unfortunately seen right-wing parties around the world stepping back in their support of Ukraine, playing with support of Putin, which is unfortunate. Even in Canada, where the Conservative Party of Canada voted against a measure on Ukraine free trade, we see that there are temptations by a lot of people on the right to fall victim or to act on Putin's misinformation and disinformation. We need to stay strong on Ukraine and on international law, because it's not just the future of Ukraine that is at play here, it is the future of all democracies.
Next question.
Monsieur le Premier ministre, c'est possible de répéter cette réponse en français, à savoir est-ce qu'une élection, par exemple, de Donald Trump met fin à toute cette aide qui est déployée pour l'Ukraine?
Je pense qu'on est en train de voir, tout franchement, une montée la montée d'une résistance envers l'aide à l'Ukraine et la défense de l'Ukraine chez les partis politiques de droite. On voit qu'il y a des gens qui sont en train de tomber piège à la propagande, à la désinformation de Vladimir Poutine, et c'est en train de retirer de l'appui de la droite pour la lutte des Ukrainiens. On l'a vu d'ailleurs au Canada quand le Parti conservateur du Canada a voté contre le renforcement d'un traité de libre-échange entre le Canada et l'Ukraine. C'est des choses qui démontrent à quel point, malheureusement, la droite n'est pas là, souvent, pour défendre la démocratie, pour défendre la règle de droit et pour défendre donc notre souveraineté et notre indépendance à tous et toutes à travers le monde.
Et de retour à la maison, il y a le Bloc québécois qui rattache en quelque sorte la survie de votre gouvernement à ce projet de loi qui bonifierait les pensions pour les 65-74 ans. C'est une mesure qui coûterait 3 milliards de dollars. Êtes-vous prêt à investir cet argent-là et allez-vous appuyer ce projet de loi?
On a fait énormément de travail pour les aînés au fil des dernières années, que ce soit en augmentant les pensions pour les aînés les plus vulnérables qui ont 75 ans et plus. On reconnaît qu'il y a bien des gens qui manquent d'économie pendant qu'ils vivent plus longtemps ou qui ont des coûts augmentés quand ils sont plus âgés en tant qu'aînés. Mais je trouve ça un peu intéressant que le Bloc québécois parle des aînés de 65 ans et plus, parce que c'est justement ce qu'on a ciblé avec nos soins dentaires pour les aînés. D'ailleurs, 700 000 aînés à travers le pays ont reçu des soins dentaires avec notre programme canadien des soins dentaires. Et le Bloc québécois a été nulle part pour appuyer dont ils avaient si besoin. Alors, évidemment, on va continuer à avoir des conversations sur comment on peut s'assurer que nos investissements pour les aînés et pour les citoyens soient les bonnes. Je suis toujours là pour travailler avec n'importe qui veut investir dans les Canadiens. One of the things that we have demonstrated over the past number of years is serious investments in seniors, in supports for seniors, whether it's by raising OAS for older seniors, 75 and up, who face both a running out of their savings in some cases as they live longer, but also extra costs associated with getting older than 75. We're there for our seniors. It's interesting that the Bloc is talking about supporting seniors when they voted against and stood against the Canadian dental care plan that has already helped over 700,000 people, mostly seniors, access affordable dental care. So I'm going to continue to work with any progressives in this House that want to deliver for Canadians in concrete ways. I'm always ready to talk about what more we can do for vulnerable seniors.
Je comprends que vous allez continuer vos discussions, mais est-ce que c'est quelque chose que, pour la survie de vos gouvernements, vous pourriez appuyer?
Moi, ma préoccupation, c'est par rapport au bien-être des Canadiens, pas le bien-être de mon gouvernement. Et je trouve que le travail qu'on doit continuer à faire pour investir dans les aînés, pour investir en plus de places en garderie, pour créer plus de logements d'un bout à l'autre de ce pays, ça doit être et ça demeure ma priorité. Les autres partis peuvent jouer à de la politique. Moi, je vais rester focusé sur les besoins des Canadiens.
Subsidiary CTV pursues a biased news agenda because it's hoping to get a bailout from your government. What's your reaction to those comments?
One of the big conversations we're having here at the UN, certainly amongst all our allies, is how important it is to stand up for democracy. We know that democratic values and principles are under attack around the world from authoritarians, from far right-wing populists, from a whole bunch of people who don't particularly want to see strong and thriving free democracies. Part of the targets of attacks on democracies is on a free, independent media, is on the work that professional journalists do to hold governments and people in power to account and inform Canadians and inform citizens about what's going on in their democracies. I, as you well know, have often disagreed with some of the conclusions that media has been opining on from time to time, but in the conveying of facts, in the challenging people in positions of authority or who seek positions of authority, it's absolutely essential that we always defend the freedom of and independence of the media. And politicians who deliberately undermine the legitimacy and the hard work by professional journalists are not standing up for democracy, are certainly not standing up for freedom.
You mentioned you met with the King of Jordan this morning. He just gave a speech where he talked about double standards in the application of international law, exemptions for some countries undermining the whole world system. You said that Russia has violated the UN Charter and by acquiring territory through force. That's why Canada is unequivocal. But you did equivocate last week when you abstained on a motion about Israel. And I just want to ask, what do you make of his argument that you're undermining your own arguments about Ukraine, undermining international law? Can you explain the different standards, and do you think that his argument is fair?
Canada always stands up for international law, and that's why we support the ICC and the ICJ in all their work, and will continue to. The international rules-based order, anchored in values that we all share, is really important. That's why we are unequivocal about needing a two-state solution. We need a peaceful, secure Israel alongside a peaceful, secure Palestinian state. And the fact that, unfortunately, both sides in that particular conflict have withdrawn and are distancing themselves to is something that deeply preoccupies me and many, many other countries around the world, and we're all continuing to work together to try and get there.
Next question.
Kelly Malone, the Canadian Press. So President Biden in his address reflected on his decision this summer to take his name off the Democrats' ticket, telling leaders some things are more important than power and telling them to think about the people you serve. What is your takeaway when you're facing a non-confidence vote at home and the NDP pulled from the supply and confidence agreement?
Well, listen, obviously the Conservatives are very much thinking about power right now. I'm thinking about how we can best help Canadians. I'm thinking about how to put the best balance sheet in the G7 in service of Canadians, to invest in Canadians. Confident countries invest in their citizens. Right now, Pierre Poilievre is offering cuts. He's telling Canadians that the best way to get through these difficult times is to cut services and programs that Canadians rely on, to cut investments in technologies of the future, cut investments in jobs. Confident countries invest in themselves, and what we're seeing is countries around the world are investing in Canada. Companies around the world are investing in Canada in record numbers because they have confidence in Canadians. This government is investing in Canadians because we have confidence in Canadians' ability to get through this. It's just Pierre Poilievre that doesn't want to invest in Canadians, wants to cut the services, the programs, the investments that Canadians are going to rely on to build success into the coming years. And that's what I'm going to stay focused on.
Mr. Trudeau.
Yeah, go Kelly.
On the Colbert show, speaking about the vote, you said you understand the Canadians are frustrated, but you're ready to keep fighting. Biden said there was also a lot more that he wanted to do, but in stepping down, he had to do what was right for Americans. Why is you being ready to fight the right direction?
I think the focus needs to remain on how we prepare and invest in Canadians for the challenging times ahead. The challenging world that we all live in that is impacted every day by geopolitical and global forces that impact on prices at the grocery store, that impact on prices at the pump, that impact on housing, impact on just about everything that Canadians are challenged with. And the need to step up with solutions, not slogans, to take seriously the challenges that Canadians are facing instead of amplifying them and causing more fear and division. Every politician has a choice about why they serve, of what they're trying to do, how they're trying to help. And my focus is very much, and always has been, on how to serve Canadians and build a better future. That's not what we're seeing from the Conservative Party.
Last question.
On international students, we've found figures that say in 2024, 12,000 international students have applied for asylum in Canada. Mark Miller's expressed concern that that could be a backdoor, an international student visa is a backdoor to apply for asylum in Canada. Are you concerned about that issue?
Yes. Quite frankly, we need to make sure that Canada continues to be a place that welcomes in people who are fleeing violence, terrorism, that no longer have protection of their state. That's what a refugee is. That's what an asylum seeker is. And we need to continue to be a place in the world that understands not just that it's a moral and appropriate thing to do to welcome in people who have no state, no protections in the country in which they currently live, but it is also good for Canada. And we have seen over the past many decades Canada thrive because of people fleeing violence and persecution. But our capacity to do that means we need to properly be able to identify who needs most help, who is there as a true asylum seeker, and use other people using the asylum path as a shortcut to gain Canadian permanent residency or citizenship is something that we need to continue to push back against. And that's why we are defending Canada's openness as a country by ensuring rigorous processes that are fair and respected. That's how Canadians will remain confident in being a country that is open to people around the world at a time where many around the world are turning backwards.
Those rigorous processes, is your government considering strengthening them, considering it is easier to get an international student visa relative to PR or other kind of visas?
Well, we've actually taken a number of steps because we saw over the past years both post-secondary education institutions and the provinces allow for a far greater number of international students than the institutions or the communities that they're part of could actually hold. And that is why we have made significant steps to make sure that both the absorption capacity of these international students in the communities in which they live is respected, but also we were seeing, unfortunately, a lot of international students being exploited in Canada instead of getting the education and the opportunities that they came to our country for. So making sure that the system is rigorous continues to be a significant priority for us.
Thank you, Prime Minister. That concludes today's
Merci beaucoup, tout le monde.